How we doing today? What's going on in your part of the world? The other day, we had some people from Nigeria on the live stream, tuning in, checking it out. I think there was some from Russia in all there on there as well, but that's cool. That's why I like the internet, is we can connect and come together over long distances. I want to know what you see in the world out there. I just am producing a video from a guy who's talking about how he feels the world has changed. He had a bunch of examples. He lives in Kentucky. He's talking about the Kentucky Derby. He thinks the world has changed. He thinks people have changed since COVID times and 2020. And I'm trying to be careful with saying that term. You don't want to get too crazy. He thinks people have changed. I tend to agree with him. I want to know what you're seeing out there. If you think that's, the case. I don't know that I think a lot of it's attributed to the COVID experience, but some of it's probably just technology, media in general. I don't know. I think it's messing with people's ability. I think we're becoming kind of antisocial, less social, to be honest. He has some theories. Like I said, I'm producing it. It's going to go up in the Hot Topic series, but I wanted to throw it out there. Some of my thoughts, I think technology has played a big role, but I definitely see a massive shift during the 2020 experience, right? 2020 to 2022 heavy, people were in fear mode. People were, questioning each other, right? And they weaponized people against one another. And that's how they're bad seeds. Are they good or bad people? Well, are they dividing people? That's a bad person. United we stand, divided we fall. These are classic division techniques. This is classic warfare, right? And the warfare is on humanity in general, I believe. It's always been kind of on us, but divide and conquer is their plan, right? To divide us in many ways as possible. And the guy talked about it in the video, right? Divide us in race, divide us in socioeconomic status, pro-vax, anti-vax, pro-abortion, anti-abortion. What else? How else do they divide us? They divide us nation upon nation, right? They divide religion, Christians and Muslims. In fact, that's the heart of Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini, is like, we will stoke an agitation between the Muslims and the Christians until it erupts in war. And it all goes back to the war. And this is why I think it's kind of interesting that some people don't see this as the game plan. I mean, we know bankers make money when we go to war, big money. That's long been known. And yet, what causes a war? Well, division and strife and tension, right? If you look back into precursors of WW2, I haven't researched WW1 a lot, but precursors of WW2 is like, hey, we're going to put economic sanctions on a lot of places, particularly Japan is what I'm thinking about, and to such a degree that we're going to force them to, escalate the situation. This is why I was so sketched out about the tariffs. I was like, yeah, tariffs probably aren't a good idea, when you're to that level, because financial warfare often leads to physical warfare. And that's why I was like, I don't think these tariffs are a good idea. But I definitely see it. I definitely see people have changed. Fear could have played a major role. Again, I just think it puts people on the offensive when you're saying, okay, these people are bad because they're not taking this medicine, and you should, shame them. The media was telling everyone to shame them. The government was telling them to shame them. Remember when Joe Biden said, our patience is wearing thin? That's wild. That is wild. When one of the most corrupt politicians that I know of on the planet, there are a lot of them, they're all sketchy, tells people that, some people take it into their mind to be like, yeah, the government told me to shame people. And I don't think it's beneficial to uniting humanity, right? To coming together and interacting in a positive way. These outside influences, they capture our minds and their propaganda and mind control. And it's a wild, sketchy experience, to be quite honest. But that guy had a lot of good things to say. Jesus is king, absolutely. He was talking about the Kentucky. What he was talking about is the Kentucky Derby, and I guess, excuse me, I guess there is Let me just take a sip of tea here. I guess there's a long-standing tradition in the Kentucky Derby that in the infield there is this huge wild party, right? And at that party, it's like basically drunken debauchery. And he said when he went in 2022 that it wasn't like that anymore, that it wasn't like that. And he thinks it was kind of fishy. I think it's kind of fishy too, although I do like the fact that people are not drinking as much and waking up to the lies and deception. What is your favorite ancient Mesopotamian farming method? That's clever. I don't know Mesopotamian farming methods. Communism is nice. I like the Scottish Socialism Party. Okay, hello, how we doing? Yeah, so he's just basically saying he sees it all around. He did point the finger to technology to a large degree. He also pointed the finger to the fact that people are on the internet much more and they're not having to interact. And if you don't use a skill or a muscle, you will probably lose it. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate your help. Bible study guy. How we doing? Hello. Bruce Willis. Yep, another YouTube grifter. You know it. YouTube is the grifting platform of the world. I love it. Yeah. Anyways, so he's basically just pointing out what we all see. It got like 330,000 views. It's definitely resonating with people. I first saw that video on Jack Morgan's Red Leather podcast, which is really interesting. I recommend you check it out. He talks about some interesting stuff there, and he's a very much of a character. I like that guy. So many people are talking about what's happening in the world, and this is how it should be, right? If we get into silos and we don't interact with one another, we don't share knowledge and information, and we don't grow as a society, right? And as a culture. And face-to-face in person is the best way to do it if you can. If not, or online here via social media and or live streams, I'm from Paraguay. You seem creative and enlightened. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Elsa. Good to see you on here again. I try. I do what I can. I appreciate that. Paraguay. One of the guys I follow, Caleb Jones, he's one of these guys that does 5 flags. He's living in multiple. He has a home in Dubai and Paraguay. He talks a lot about the Western decline and says, hey, get out while you can. I saw his apartment tour in Paraguay. Paraguay seems nice. I mean, do you like it there? Would you recommend, do you like living there? I mean, the U.S., the big thing the U.S. has is infrastructure, and it's not bad here. I mean, I do think we're being hammered psychologically with, propaganda and mind control right now and division. And it'll be interesting to see what the future holds, whether we can, hold our country together as the powers that be try to rip it apart from the fabric. But just want to know what you think about Paraguay. It looks like a nice place. I need to dive in a little more. Would you rather watch a tree grow or a knee grow? Would you rather watch a tree grow? Thanks. I appreciate it. Western decline is real. My family is from Norway 4 generations ago. We love Paraguay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. It is real. Western decline is a wild situation because it's so senseless. But then again, all the times countries have gone into decline, and I think there's always been ulterior motives and outside forces. It's definitely real. A while ago, I watched a video, and it was like the new American dream is to leave America. It is getting pretty wild here. It is getting pretty wild. I'm leaning towards like the simple life, to be quite honest, like Amish type style, simple living, because this the way things are going with AI and with all of the BS the government's doing and their continual spending. They're just super sketchy. They're very sketchy. Facts, US is declining and too expensive. You can live in other countries for way cheaper and better healthcare. That's the number one reason why I would leave is, healthcare and the fact that it's expensive. The only challenge that I have is I came across some information a while ago looking at Mexico, right? And I do see this as real. You don't want to kind of gentrify other nations and or move over there and kind of interfere with their culture, right? I read an article about, I think it was San Miguel de Allende, and they were like, or even Mexico City, they're like, yeah, Westerners are moving here and starting a bunch of yoga studios and coffee shops and changing the culture there, which we know that happens. I mean, even in the US, when people move from, let's say California or New York, they come into certain areas and it changes the culture here, in different states. And so it's a thing. I don't want to be part of the problem coming into other countries and, bringing Western ideas or Western whatever else culture there, because clearly the West doesn't have it all figured out. And I just, what I really want to do is I just want to go to another country and immerse myself in a different culture, and just see what's up, because the US, once you wake up from the American dream, the US it's an interesting place because you have now less people you can relate to. Fortunately, I have a solid group of friends and I've been the best people in the world, but you do have less you can talk about people with because some people don't want to talk about, certain things. Let's just leave it at that. Let me see what you guys are saying here. How's it going? Yeah, but the healthcare is a big one. I see a lot of that from expats, and they're over it. Our healthcare system is wildly ridiculous here. Absolutely ridiculous. It's super expensive. We don't get good care. We don't get the care for the money, to be honest, but it's very expensive. That's the number one reason. I don't know how the healthcare systems in other countries, how long they'll be less expensive, but it's just out of control here. I think a large part of that is the problem is here, we have so much like litigation and that the doctors and stuff have to carry so much liability insurance. It's just a wild ride. It's driving up the cost for everyone. It's making people more health minded for sure, though. That's what it is. Yeah, you say no one wants us. I do think no one wants us. I'm starting to feel that Americans, and I say this as an American, and I'll be at the front of the line if this line does form in reality, and I'm not putting Americans down, but Americans, and again, I'm right there at the beginning, are ignorant to a lot of things around the world because we've been dumbed down in the education system, because we're kind of the bread and circuses capital of the world. And it doesn't give me joy to say that, but let's just be real. I agree with you. No one does want us because our government's been terrorizing people all over the globe for a long time in the name of freedom and democracy, which is really just enriching the military industrial complex and bankers and, industrialists. And I think the globe is kind of looking at Americans going, well, when are you guys going to wake up and start, helping, being a part of the solution as a part of the problem? And I don't blame them. And sometimes I joke around like with this, but I feel like, one of the options on my list is to, move to a third world country and just, dig ditches and build infrastructure and help in any way I can because of the stupidity that how stupid I've been and ignorant I've been over the last, long time. I mean, COVID was a huge wake up call, and it actually caused me to start speaking out intentionally and more vocally about the crimes against humanity that our government's been involved in. And before that, I just knew the government was incompetent. I didn't know about the millions in Iraq that they had unalived. I didn't know about the, hell on earth experience they created there. And again, in the name of freedom and democracy, going to go in and remove a brutal dictator. And oh, by the way, we're going to make your experience 20,000 times worse. Or Libya. I didn't know about that. But what happened for me was once I pulled the string and like looked under the cover and was like, holy shit, COVID was a wake up call. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible what our government's been doing on our behalf. And then I just, it's wild. It's a wild mind opening experience. Not India, LOL. Greetings from India. How we doing? Not Iran, LOL. Yeah, colonialization is key. Yeah, it's caused a lot of problems for sure. And I realize America is a colonized country too. And sometimes I just think, what's the point of it all? But I do feel that there's a lot of healing to go on and a lot of knowledge to be shared, and it can be beneficial, Not Israel. We are trash now. Yeah, we are. I think we've been, again, I don't like saying it. I think we've been trash for a long time. We're not taken credibly. How can the world look at us and take us credibly when our government, and along with, the English government, we're colonizers. We're brutal, oppressive colonizers. How can we expect to be taken seriously? And to be fair, it's not just us. I think, I know all countries have, brutalized and colonized all over the world throughout history. So I don't just throw America under the bus. We just happen to be the top dogs now, the best of the, the best colonizers now. So it's not like I'm anti-America. I just am kind of like wish the evil forces that manipulate the world and the power hungry people would kind of take a chill pill. But I know that might be dreaming, to be honest. I have friends moving from US, moving to Ecuador, but Paraguay and Uruguay are way better. I've heard a lot about Ecuador, to be honest. I watch a lot of stuff about Ecuador. Some of the people, the expats that I follow live in Ecuador, and because Ecuador had a little moment, right? There's some instability there, right? Paraguay and Uruguay are way better. I've heard that. And plus, I just want to go and experience South America. Like I said, I've been looking heavy at Mexico. I realize that, everyone everywhere has their challenges, but just to get a different perspective on the world, to be honest. We are the greatest country on earth, and if you don't believe that, you need to re-educate. Rick, I hear you. I used to believe that. I think we've been brainwashed quite a bit in our country. Yeah, I was the first. Those words could have came out of my mouth prior to COVID, but we appear to have been, captured by, evil people doing bad things, enemies behind the lines, and has been for a long time. I mean, Charlotte Iserby has been talking about the dumbing down of America for a long time. I think we are. I think since World War II, there's been an attack on Americans heavy via the food, via the water, via the air, via the education, entertainment, media of all kinds, political, etc. An attack on our mind, body, soul, financially, everywhere. So I can't believe that anymore, that we're the greatest country in the world. I want to believe it, but we've done too many bad deeds to too many of our brothers and sisters around the world. Even in the early 1900s, we were going all around the globe, securing third world nations for industrialists. How are we great when we're interfering with, how are we great when we're interfering with 80 to 100 democracies, governments chosen by the people of those countries? How are we great when we've interfered with those governments for the benefit of the industrial complex in America and industrialists and governments? How are we great when Bill Clinton went into Haiti and destroyed the rice market under the auspices of, we're going to help these farmers, bring up, we're going to help these farmers by forcing them to buy rice from Arkansas and other parts of America, and helped them come into the industrial age. And Bill Clinton later apologized for that. Although apologies don't do much when you've destroyed the fabric of a country. How are we great when we destroy Iraq? How are we great when we destroy Libya? These are questions I have. I just question these things. You will know them by their fruits. If we are sowing seeds of greatness around the world, then I buy it. But if we're not, then I question it seriously. The practices, methods, and unwanted procedures are destroying everything because many have lost faith through mind, body, and spirit manipulation. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, many, I sometimes lose faith in humanity, and my whole purpose is to do what I can to help humanity, right? I think it's what a lot of people on earth want to do. But yeah, people are losing faith. Secular views. To your point about, do I like pigeons? I'm okay with pigeons. Yeah. I like all animals. Well, I had $100,000 heart transplant. It only cost me $87. I'm assuming you mean transplant. It may have only cost you $87, but that's not the cost of that procedure, right? I get you. I mean, a lot of people benefit from a social society, but so is that the only, Rick, is that the only thing that you think America is great because of? Because I'm glad you came out well, by the way, but there are a lot of things we need to address in our country that the world needs us to address, right? Doctors don't know shit nowadays. Sadly, I think, to your point, Rick, I think that's part of the dumbing down of America. I was thinking about this the other day. Not only have we been dumbed down for decades, but we're also, that doesn't just stop in like grades 1 through 12. It goes on to college and it goes on to doctors. And I do think that, I don't like to throw doctors under the bus, but it does appear that they're not. In general, a lot of Americans aren't critically thinking. I could do better myself, but they're not critically thinking, looking at the facts, really diving in, like, what else could we do here? We've lost touch with a lot of natural healing modalities. We've lost touch with things like meditation, even simple as water and nutrition. I think our country's just wild and wacky. I go into the grocery store these days and I see all the wackiest foods, totally processed. It's crazy. A doctor will put you on cholesterol medicines even when cholesterol has nothing. Yes, they do. I think that's their main go-to, is these medications of sorts. And it's wild because what I want them to prescribe food as medicine and lifestyle as medicine, but see, the reason they do that, Rick, is because they weren't taught that in their education. They weren't taught about food. They're not taught about, air and social connection and sleep and sunshine and all these things. They're only taught about pharmaceuticals. And why is that? I believe pharmaceutical companies fund a lot of these medical schools, right? They do. They push those meds all the time, and it's super weird. That's another reason why I want to get out of America, because it's becoming an insane asylum, to be quite honest. Mm-hmm. Paraguay and Uruguay want America people. Really? Is that so? Well, that's good to know, because I thought like, I just thought people didn't want Americans because, hey, we're kind of an ignorant bunch up here. And I just didn't think they'd want us to, export our ignorance down there. But that's good to know, because I'd be down with moving to one of those places and just checking it out. I really just want to, as America is not the place, I think, moving forward. I think it's going to get worse here, sadly. I don't think it's going to be ideal moving forward. I just want to see what the rest of the world has to hold before whatever else happens. You never know. Is that Walter White? Nope. Yes, we've become more racist and divisive. Yeah, we have. We really have. It's sad. And I think all that would end if people would stop watching the media and television and politicians. They stoked the fire. Obama stoked it a lot. Like, he and his wife stoked it a lot. Remember when they said, They're finally proud of the country. I'm like, dude, again, I have questions for the country in general, but they're stoking the racial fires. They want to create kind of a civil unrest. We are bullies. I'm assuming you mean bullies. We are bullies. And we're not even bullying for good reason. We're bullying just for money, right? To enrich a few. It's like, well, like Smedley Butler said, the, highly decorated Marine who called himself a gangster for capitalism. We're bullies for the military industrial complex for sure. We're now bullies for pharma industrial complex. We're bullies for a very small group of people. See, the American people are just pawns in the game as well. And this is what I try to, my offering to foreign nations is like, hey, we're kind of along for the ride here. We're doing what we can. That's why I liked when Abby Martin said that if you live in America or England, you're in the heart of the empire. And she feels, and I love that woman, she's a gem. She feels we have a moral and ethical obligation to the whole world to do what we can to stop this BS. Because if we don't stop it, who's going to stop it? Right? I think about the people in Iraq and in Iran, even in Libya and in South America all the time being on the receiving end of some of our BS. And I'm not down with it. I'm not down with it at all. Israel siphoned all your power. They did siphon all of our power. Well, and I don't think it's Israel per se. I think it's, I think they're a pawn in the game as well. I think it's the money behind Israel, the bankers behind Israel. And I think it even goes deeper than we probably deeper than I even understand. They got into our country, the bad actors, and they are using our country to benefit themselves. The good news is, I always like to look on the bright side of things. Americans are waking up. People are waking up to it. And the lies and deception are being exposed. So many people now see what's going on because of Israel's influence. And that's a very good thing. It's a very good thing. As a racist, I feel oppressed. Yeah, Joe the commie. Absolutely. I think all these politicians are working an agenda. I think they're all puppeteers being played. I hope Jesus is returning soon. Although I can't just wait for that. I have to do what I can to try to help the world, Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rick, it's part of the plan. I do plan to go see what's over there. No, I don't like Joe Biden. I'm sketched out of all of them, to be honest. God forgives all. Glad you're finally awake. Yeah, me too. You and me both, right? Since day one, country invade country. That's how it works. We're lucky to be in the right side. I don't know that we're on the right side. I don't know if you caught the first part of my chat, but the U.S. has done some dirty things to our brothers and sisters all around the globe in the name of money, right? And I realize all countries do it, but the American propaganda machine was pretty good, right? I just don't see it anymore. I see a lot of death and destruction being caused, not to bring freedom and democracy to countries. Like, we didn't bring freedom and democracy to Iraq. We unalived 2 to 3 million people, including the 500,000 babies, through sanctions and destroying their infrastructure. So I can't be on board with that. They're not doing it on our behalf. That's where you're wrong. Yeah, I agree. They're not doing it on our behalf. Yeah, they're doing it for a small group of people that are in charge of our government, and they enrich themselves. And it wouldn't be right whether we got rich off of it all anyways. Yeah, on behalf of Israel and not Americans. My late spouse wanted to move to Canada 10 years ago. To that point, I've heard that Great Britain is imploding quickly, and Canada is also imploding quickly. I've heard that, and I think they're hammering America pretty hard. I mean, all the same tactics. They flooded. They're using people as pawns in their game. They flooded Europe, with people coming out of the Middle East, destabilized. It's just wild. They're trying to create mass chaos, from what I see, and destabilize nations and weaken them and crumble them. And from we all know what their plan is, right? From chaos, they will create order, and I think they want a totalitarian one world government. It's pretty clear when you see what's happening in the countries of the West. England's hammered hard. Their healthcare system I guess, is a total shit show. The Canadian healthcare system, I guess, is a mess, and the infrastructure up there. I don't know. I mean, it's just a wild experience. The West is definitely being hammered. But yeah, I wonder if you're happy you didn't move to Canada, seeing what's happened up there to them. American citizens have been duped. You didn't know, brother. I didn't know to the degree that I know now. I had a huge awakening in COVID times. I've always been skeptical of government for like 20 years, thinking they were incompetent. Here's what I tell people. Prior to COVID, I thought government was incompetent. After COVID, I realized government is very competent, just not in the benefit of people, of human beings. Your stuff is slow. It is slow. I'm a slow person. We need to remember the secular teachings of the past and discard all the woo. Secular teaching of the past and discard all the woo. Yeah, maybe I think you're probably referring to the New Age movement. Is that what you're kind of thinking? Yeah, something's gone awry on our journey here, to be honest. Something's gone awry. APAC, both sides of the aisle. What is your soul worth? Absolutely. Yeah, they do. When you see all these politicians, they're just dancing for Israel. It's like, America has major challenges. That just shows you their true colors. It exposes them as people wake up and they see this. And a lot of people are. They're totally bought and paid for. It's pretty wild. No country compares to the USA. Well, like I say, I appreciate your opinion. I don't agree with that anymore. Yes, I have listened to Jeffrey Sachs. That's where I get a lot of my information, to be honest. That guy is a solid gold gem. He's the guy that I learn a lot about what the CIA has been up to. Thanks for bringing him up. I like that guy a lot. Yeah. I've never served in the military. No, I haven't. I have friends who've served and family members, but not me. Yeah, we are the strongest military in the world. That's I think what our country was designed for, to be the bruisers, bouncers of the world, right? And go and put military bases all over the world. It's wild. It's wild to see, I think I have a feeling Americans are going to be on the receiving end of some of that military strength very soon. And it doesn't give me joy to say that. Healthcare. Remember the 50s when companies competed on quality of their product and paid people a living wage? Yeah. Yeah, we used to be proud makers of things. We used to do things right. I just think corruption has gotten into all levels of our government and our country, and it's pretty much out of control now. And I think that's what happens near the ends of countries, is it becomes a free for all and a money grab. It's kind of like, I've never declared bankruptcy myself, but I think it's kind of like what I imagine happens if you're about to declare bankruptcy and destroy your, credit rating. You might as well go out and get a bunch of stuff and, max out the credit cards. I think that's what they're trying to do by, basically ATMing these pandemics and wars, and they're fun. It's money laundering. I think it's money laundering from the American people to a few people who run the government. And I think they just bail out, kind of like they did in Great Depression, kind of like they do at other times. They just cash out and leave Americans holding the bag. I think it's going to get ugly. I really do. We do. It does seem like a wild ride at the end. Hello from Serbia. How are you doing? I military when your people are dying of a cold. Or F military when people are dying of a cold. Yeah. You were great in the Die Hard movies. Thanks. I wasn't in them, but I do get that a lot. Go to the Dominican Republic and get a big house on the beach with Spanish tile for $600,000. Yeah, I watched a video. I reviewed a video on my Hot Topic series about a guy who moved to Dominican Republic. He said it changed his mental health. His mental health improved, and he even said he's even working more down there, but getting out of the belly of the beast of being America. He said his mental and emotional health improved drastically because of moving there. So that's one of the places on the list potentially to see and check out. USA is Serbia. Okay. USA is Serbia. So you're saying we're very similar, huh? No, I'm always learning, Rick. I can always learn more about the world. Yep. Can I name for you the U.S. colonies? No, I can't. I cannot. I mean, I want to say Guam is in there. I want to say, yeah. I know we've had our hands in a lot of nation, but I cannot name the U.S. colonies. That's a good question. Oaxaca State is pretty awesome. Huatulco, it's by the beach. I've watched a lot about Huatulco, and I have a friend who I think his family goes down to, but it's called Oaxaca, isn't it? Is that the proper? I think that's the proper pronunciation, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I have a friend who has connections down there. His family's, extended families from there. He likes it there. Huatulco looks nice too. I could dig one of those places. MAGA is definitely proof that America has dumped down to a Homer Simpson degree. Yeah, I think the whole political system, I think a lot of people just want to believe. What the problem is, I think for Americans is we've been dumbed down for a long time, and plus we've been traumatized. The right has been traumatized. They had to use the right or the left. They manipulate both sides at different times for different reasons to achieve an agenda. I think that for some reason they chose to use the right and or the Christian right for this final phase, or what hopefully will not be the final phase. Hopefully people will wake up. We pray that and set the intention that people wake up from the lies and deception in our world and in our country. And they are, I believe. But they're using the right, and they've traumatized them. That's how the powers of our country manipulate people, is they use trauma to mind control people, and they just traumatize people, and now MAGA will do anything to avoid ending up under, like a Biden or a Kamala Harris. And you're right. Entertainment is entrainment. Amen to that. Absolutely. Bread and circuses is probably, if Americans gave up bread and circuses, we could fix our country probably within a week or a month. Because, well, let's say a month. We got to get it out of our system. But I look at the massive, people attending concerts, sporting events, the sporting events. It's just wild. I mean, they're just so fixated on this. I never really understood sporting events. I did understand Hollywood entertainment. What country is, like I said earlier, Rick, when I'm talking about the world, it's humans that do it, right? I don't know of a country that's, I'm not saying any country's better than Americans. I just say we've been doing the baddest things around the globe for the last, definitely since World War II, meddling and manipulating other countries. I don't think it's right, but I don't know of another country that, I don't know. I think that's a great question. Water is what will destroy us. Okay. What do you mean by that? Rise to the Serbian power. If we're so bad, get the hell out. Yeah, I hear that a lot, Rick. Again, the problem is there's nowhere you can go in the world to get away from the criminals that are running our country and their bad deeds. We have to change the system from the inside. We're great because we do interfere. Okay. I don't know about that. Yeah. I get a lot of funny comments on YouTube to your point here. They're saying they do say funny things. What do you think made the mafia? What do I think made the mafia? I'm not sure I fully or made the mafia great. What do you think made the mafia great? Well, from what I've gathered on my investigation is the mafia and the government is essentially one, you know. I think you have a bunch of potato heads here in your audience. I think the potato heads are on the internet. That is true. That is true. And they do come around. Hi, Mark. Can I ask a little bit about the best advice for the young being too stressed in life and future? You sure can. I'll give you my 2 cents. Simplify your life as much as possible. Get as much out of the systems of man as you can. Don't get into debt if you can avoid it. Uh, the game is simplify your life as much as possible. And what I mean by that is possessions, um, things. Don't get seduced by advertising, etc. And also uh, tune into your gifts and your talent as early as you can in life. Let me invite you, uh, Cutie Cleanse, is that your name? Let me invite you to go pick up a free guide that I created. It's part of One Life. One Life is the system I created to help you win the game of life. We're all playing a game, right? The game is how much can you use your God-given gifts and talents to make the world a better place? Are you a baker? Are you a chef? Are you a builder, a designer? Are you a doctor, healer? Are you a nurse? Whatever your natural affinity is, that people say, hey, you're really good at that, or you're good at it, or time stands still when you're doing it, or you get into flow state when you're doing it. That's your thing. Anyway, One Life is about playing that. You can learn more about One Life at thisismyonelife.com, but I want to go invite you, since you asked, to download the free guide that I created. You can get it at gmarkphillips.com/subscribe. There is a link on my Instagram. I'm everywhere on social media at gmarkphillips. So you can go to my Instagram. There's a link there. That guide is called How to Find Your Mission in Life. I use it all the time. It's how I discovered my mission in life. You're watching it right now, me do my mission in life. Also, my mission is kind of knowledge aggregation and knowledge management and compilation, and then sharing. Some of the ways I do that is through the Great Awakening Guide at greatawakeningguide.com, and through that How to Find Your Mission in Life. Again, you can find it at gmarkphillips.com/subscribe. But the reason I recommend that to you is because when you know your purpose, you've mined the gold that God put inside of you, right? When you know your gifts and your talents, you can play your strengths in the game of life, because the only way you're going to win the game of life is by playing your strengths. Bench your weaknesses, play your strengths, and get out there and start creating good things for humanity. Then you link it up with, what does the world need? One of the questions in the How to Find Your Mission in Life is about your ikigai. Your ikigai is your reason for being. What are you good at? What do you love to do? What does the world need? And what can you be paid for? That's my advice right there. I know that's long-winded, but hopefully it helps. I do not fantasize about Joe Biden. That guy has a dumb head. 50-year career politician, one of the most corrupt men on the planet. They're all corrupt at that level. Oh, I see. It's just Rick Barry, mouthpiece for MAGA. Apologies are meaningless to millions lost. They are 100%, 100%. Elsa, thank you. And they all apologize. I produced a video recently about, remember when the three of them, Clinton, Obama, and Bush, came on the scene in 2025 and said, hey, we want you to encourage you to go take that medicine from pharmaceutical companies. Well, in an effort to expose their lyingness, like you mentioned, Elsa, I produced a little video showing Bill Clinton's lie. He made a grave mistake. I want to expose these people as not good decision makers, because in the tribe of in tribe-like mentality, if you see a bad decision maker and they happen to be leader of your tribe, I think we have a moral and ethical obligation to point them out as bad decision makers, because some people don't see them as bad decision makers. Like I said earlier, Bill Clinton apologized for destroying Haiti. That's a bad decision maker. George Bush went into Iraq under trumped up allegations of weapons of mass destruction. There were none. We now know that. And Barack Obama said his debacle in Libya was the worst mistake of his presidency. You're right, Elsa. They destroy and then they go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm bad. We're bad. I made a mistake." You bet you did make mistakes. And so my whole goal is to expose these liars and deceivers for what they are. You know. Hmm. Yeah, I don't think we should have ever been in the Middle East. I think they go there because of the oil and because of the, strategic location. It's just wild, all the crimes that have been done. And again, I know other countries have done those throughout history as well, but we're doing them now. And I think we have as an American, I have a obligation to speak out about it. Hmm. Even the other countries like Saudi say we're the greatest country on earth right now. Well, I imagine they would, Rick. I mean, they are business partners benefiting monetarily. See, money can change a person's perception of the world, because let's be real, in this world, money is the god of this world, to be honest. I hate saying that. Yes, it's all business partnerships. You're right, Donna. It is. I don't think Saudi does think that. You say the Middle East needed to get their shit together. Well, who are we to tell them that, right? What happened to letting a country determine its own self, right? It sounds like you may be still under the impression, and I don't, I appreciate your journey, under the impression that our government saying the Middle East is bad and that's where all of the attacks come from. Sounds like, I used to believe that too, right? I didn't look into it more, right? I don't know what you mean by getting their shit together, to be honest. So we intervened. I don't know how, when we intervene and unalive millions of people and create what I've heard is a hell on earth experience there, I don't know if they're better off because we intervened. Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. Yeah. Yeah. I still need to deep dive into Congo. It's been on my list for a long time. There's just so much debauchery and BS in the world. It's hard to keep up on it all, Stints are 100,000. Okay. Yeah. So you're retired Air Force and your wife is too. Quit talking bad about the country. Why don't you watch good news station like Fox or Newsmax? I don't want to talk bad about the country. I don't want to talk bad about human beings. I just look at the facts, Rick, and the facts is we appear to be the bad guys. I don't mean to throw you under the bus. I don't mean to offend you. I appreciate your journey. But do you have any questions do you question what our government has done, or are you, going to believe the politicians? See, clearly you don't like Joe Biden, but do you not see that these people appear to be two wings of the same bird? Does that not cause you, give you pause? Yeah, the rest of us get screwed when they, do their bad, dirty deeds. People don't even know what money is. Probably not. Probably not. We're so disconnected from it. It's basically like ones and zeros, right? It's printed out of thin air. It's basically funny money. You are very calm and unflappable. I appreciate that. Did you know if my son actually lost his Genvoya for his HIV, it would cost 4,000. Oh, is that a drug for, um, yeah, yeah, I try to be calmness and level-headedness right now is important. I appreciate that you mentioned that. I try. I do what I can. Yeah, yeah, the medications in our country are wildly, and it's not lost on me that some people do benefit greatly from our insurance system, but I think and I'm starting to see it happening, is that insurance is starting to deny, you know, as the money system does what it does based on how they've designed it to do, right? It's kind of getting constricted and collapsing in a degree. Um, I think some people are going to start feeling the pinch, it's pretty wild. I hope everything goes well for your family though, and your son. Abnormally large head. I get that a lot. My big brain's in there. Three things why I think the US is the best. Okay, let me see here. Country in the world. US Navy SEALs, Delta Force, and cops. And I'm from the UK, which is why I'm stupid. Yeah, we do have the best military in the world, and they, while I appreciate Americans, and they're just following orders when they go into those countries and, do what they do over there. Americans that are complaining need to go live in Haiti or India. I'm not complaining. I'm looking at the situation objectively, and, going and living in another country. I'm not opposed to that, to see the world, but that we can't just say, if you don't like it, get out. I mean, that mentality is not going to solve the problem. And here's the thing I want to bring up to you. Ken O'Keefe says Gaza's coming here. What do you think? What do you think about the big beautiful bill and the amount of money they're putting into another law enforcement agency, right? ICE apparently, allegedly, has more funding than a number of law enforcement agencies in the US. How much do we need? And when will the American people realize that all that force eventually, FBI, CIA, NSA, TSA, Department of Homeland Security, and now ICE, what do you think the government's going to do with all that force? Like, have you contemplated that yet? And do you know about Foucault's boomerang? I talked about that in the other video, but that is when colonizing countries, colonial countries who have exerted their force and oppressed and tyrannized other countries in order to bring money back to the States, when their power starts diminishing and they're not able to do that anymore for a number of reasons, it comes home and they do it to the people at home. Are you familiar with that? Look it up. Foucault's boomerang. I'm from the US. I live in the US. Talk about mental health meds. I don't know much about mental health meds. I'm more of a natural person myself, and because of course I've been blessed to not need them, but I try to do natural approaches to health as much as possible. Meditation, eating clean, social connections, sleep, etc. But I don't know a lot about mental health meds. How come doctors are smarter than ever? Don't give him anything to chew on. Well, I mean, Donna, some are. There are good doctors out there. Let's be real. I appreciate them, but I do notice that in general in America, I'm noticing an inability to kind of, and I think an inability to creatively to think critically about situations, and an inability of all people, myself included. I'm not immune to this, but I'm noticing an inability to kind of think outside the box and use the tools we have in our mind. And I think a lot of that is due to the constricting of the money supply. A lot of doctors, so they say they want to get out of medicine because they're forced to see too many patients in such a short period of time. They don't have the time to give patients and like really sit down and think about, okay, what are these symptoms? What's the overall health of the patient? What do they best need? Because as you know, I give doctors a lot of credit. That's a very difficult skill. People come to you with symptoms and you got to diagnose it. Wild. But I do think because of our, system is so geared towards making money that doctors don't have the time, and we all need to be our own patient advocate and or have friends and loved ones, help us out because it's a team effort. Let's see, you know all about that. So why don't you know about why this country is so great? Now, like I said, I mean, we've done some great things. We've done some really bad things. Let's be real. Okay. Yeah. Leaving is an option. Leaving is an option, but it doesn't solve the problem. Leaving the country doesn't solve the problem. That's why I started speaking about after COVID. I mean, all of you that are referring to us being the greatest country in the world, do you think it was a good thing for the government and the military and the media to force what they did during COVID, right? The LOCKDOWNS, etc. I don't think it is. Anytime you have, that's too much power. That's too much power for a government to have. You want power distributed as little as possible amongst the people. I believe in the intelligence of the people of the not only of our country but of the world. They'll know if there's a problem. You don't need the government saying, "Hey, I know none of you can see this, but there's a problem." That's a real big problem, right? It's a big problem for humanity and our country. I do know what you're talking about. Medical science is better than ever. What are you talking about? Oh, she said, I do not know what you're talking about. Medical science is better than ever. I don't know. I think there's something going on. There's something off. I don't know a lot of people that are happy with the healthcare system in America, even though in 2011 they did the Affordable Care Act to supposedly fix it. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see a lot of healthy people, Donna. I see a lot of obesity in our country. I see a lot of diabetes and pre-diabetes. I see junk food out the wazoo in our country. And see, again, going back to the comment the younger person asked about making it simple, the simplest, most effective form of healthcare, every doctor should first and foremost give their patient an option to change their diet and lifestyle and learn meditation and learn walking and exercise. They don't seem to be doing that. They're just giving them a script. And here's your meds or here's your thing. And that shows me they're not starting with the fundamental basics. And that's why I say the medical situation sketches me out in America. If you don't have your diet and your mindset right, you will never succeed. And you just throw medications on top. It's a recipe for disaster. And we are living in a disastrous health and wellness state in America. But I appreciate your comment. They do. That's why they don't actually ever try to cure anything. Yeah, they're managing symptoms from what I see. They're managing symptoms, and that's not a long-term game plan, they are clearly corrupted by the pharma industry. When their only solution is a med and they don't give you an option of a natural, first cure. Yeah. I see from the people in your comments section, and I mean some scums, not all are very stupid and destructive against Middle East and North Asia and know nothing about anything but bark a lot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, to your comment, replying to Donna's comment, the doctors have been completely dumbed down. I think they're like all of us. We've been dumbed down in the education system, and they're just part of the society and the culture. I appreciate them for what they give, but when I go to a doctor, I whatever I get, I'm thankful for. But I sadly I've lowered my standards as far as what I lowered my standards in the sense that I don't expect them to give me like the best the most magnificent thing on planet Earth. I take a lot of my own responsibility for my health and wellness. Starts with prevention. An ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. We know it. But yeah, I think they have. The good news is I think people are starting to see it. One of the doctors I follow on YouTube, Dr. Sunil Dand, he's a gem. He's an awakened doctor. He's from the UK. He's an Indian from the UK living in America. I've reviewed some of his videos on my channel. And he has a theory that he believes there's a day of reckoning coming when the medical system is going to be kind of called to task. The medical profession in the US is going to be called to task by Americans going, okay, what's up? You sided with the gov in that time. And also you're very expensive and we're not feeling we're getting the treatment we want. And a lot of those doctors, they're starting to wake up too, and they see the problem because there is a problem. It's a systemic problem. I agree with you. And it does feel like it's been dumbed down. Unfortunately, we have been desensitized to our own innate abilities to heal. Amen to that statement. 100%. I agree with you. We've got to get back to, and we're going to be forced to get back to it because of cost of healthcare and not getting the healthcare we need. I think about that all the time. Our body is a miracle, but we have to give it the proper nutrients and proper environment and proper mindset, and of course minimize the stress. You're right. We have an innate ability to heal, but because the pharma industrial complex, hijacked medicine, and I recently talked about the Flexner report. It goes all the way back, I think, to the early 1900s. They hijacked it and said, "Oh, you need to come to us for everything." What a diabolical scheme! And now a lot of Americans, generationally in, they don't even know what you just mentioned. They don't know about true health and wellness, like diet and exercise and food and sunlight and all those things. It's wild. We really have. That's when you're in trouble, when there's such a disconnect between the truth and reality that people are kind of lost in a daze. And fortunately, many people are bringing them back home. Yeah. By reminding them about the true healing. What is your business field? Well, my business field is this now. I'm in digital media. Like I said, I also sell this digital product here called One Life. And you can't see the sign right here, but I have a product and apparel line called Focus and Flow, product and apparels for conscious creators. Since 2017, when I started the media business, that's what I've been doing. But prior to that, I was in the design and space planning field, office furniture, which I thoroughly loved. I love solving problems, right? I was a designer in that field. Basically think, buildings with, sad to say it, but it was an enjoyable career for me. But I basically designed cubicle farms and or private offices. I worked for a number of the large furniture manufacturers in the U.S., Steelcase, Herman Miller, etc. And I loved that career. And I loved the people that I worked with, and I loved, helping them solve their problems. My mind thinks like that. I like to solve problems, and that's why I moved into this field. And I did 149 episodes of a podcast called Enhancing the Human Experience, talking about ways to improve our experience here on Earth. But that's what I do. Do you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? I don't want anyone to have nuclear weapons, especially, Israel and the US, because those places sketch me out far more than Iran. Yeah, America is done for. It appears that way. I think it's all been orchestrated and designed that way, to be honest. The only thing that's doing in this country is the devil. Yeah, sadly. Sadly, it is. When you see the devil, people dancing like the devil up on stage at the Grammys and stuff, you're kind of toast, right? It's a bad sign. Rural Vietnamese live very closely to nature and very simply. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen to humanity. I think there's going to be a split in the human. Some human beings are going to go back to the simple life, and then others are going to embrace the technological, advancements, AI, etc. Mm. Rick thinks it's left versus right and not rich versus poor. He will see the light one day. Yeah, we're all on our own awakening journey. That's for sure. I know I am. I definitely see it now. I've talked about this before. The biggest problem I feel facing humanity is along the lines of what you said. It's the consolidation of wealth, power, and control into the hands of a very few. Sadly, those few are very bent human beings. They're very power hungry. They could be their minds could be all twisted up. Something's not right. I mean, when you are willing to do what they've done to humanity for so long to acquire that wealth, that's bad news bears. But I agree with you. Yeah, they make it look like left versus right, or anti VAX versus pro VAX, anti abortion, pro abortion. They try to divide as much as we can. How ridiculous to think that you own something to someone else. Name a single country that has better medical care, better middle class economy, better opportunities for upward success, better drinking water, and better land for farming cultivation. I'll wait. You make a good point. You make a good point. I'm not, again, don't get me wrong. I'm not down on the people of America or what we have here. As I peel back, or what the people in America have created, as I peel back the layers, that appears to largely have been created by the amount of freedom that we had, right? You're probably familiar with the book, The 5,000-Year Leap, right? America took a 5,000-year leap because we did have freedom. I don't think it's that way anymore. Our government has grown to become so oppressive, and it's already starting to tear into and destroy the freedoms that we do have. I mean, when you have a government saying you get the thing, or you will not be able to fly, you'll not be able to travel, you'll not be able to have a job, that's a major problem. When you have a government that can, shut down people's bank account, or deplatform them, or take away something from them because they don't agree with the statements, like the government was doing during COVID times, you know, uh, manipulating social media, etc. That's a major problem. I think looking backwards, yes, our country has done a lot of wonderful things, but we've done a lot of bad in the world, and a lot of that money has been brought back to the United States when we go and rape and pillage other countries. So a lot of it's been built on the blood of others. Do you see that? I mean, surely you must know about the CIA's involvement in up to 100 foreign countries manipulating their government, their democratically elected governments. And they do that in order to make it possible for our corporations, and sometimes they just go in there and put a puppet government in so they can be beneficial to the United States. But a lot of times, like Smedley Butler says, he was a gangster for capitalism. They go and destroy the wealth, or capitalize on the wealth and resources of those nations, and funnel that money back to American corporations. Yeah, we're better off, but that game is ending as our power is diminishing. We're no longer able to export our poverty to other countries. So, yeah, we do have it here. We do have it good here. But that's coming to an end. Surely you are feeling it if you're living in America. I know that I am. White guilty a bit. I'm not white guilty. No. I'm a realist, and I look objectively at the world and make assessments about what's going on. It is good versus evil. I think it's always been good versus evil, Rick. I do. Um, you're talking about politics when you're not changing anything. Well, how do we change things, right? We change things by changing our hearts and minds first, right? We They've created the situation that we're in now by spreading lies and propaganda. My mission and my purpose is to spread truth and reality, right? And talk about things that are happening in an open, honest way. That's the only way we change the course of society. As someone mentioned earlier, the entertainment industry is entrainment. Where I'm my first audience member. I want to know the truth about of our world and what our government is and has done, and shine the light of awareness on lies and deception in our world. I'm the first guy that's sitting at the front of the seat, looking at what I'm educating myself, informing myself to be a better American and a better human being, and then educating other people who are interested in this as well. That's how we change. It's a soft revolution, right? It's a revolution of hearts and minds. You don't need to get crazy, and as at the high end, it's a revolution of non-compliance, right? It's a revolution of withdrawing our attention from the a-holes that have been running the show for a long time and putting it into other places. We vote with our mind and our heart and our attention and our money. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the traditional media establishment collapsing, right? Because people are waking up and they're going, oh, you've been deceiving us for a long time. I'm going to stop watching you. And people are. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to see. That's how we change the world. We change the world by changing ourselves and acquiring more knowledge. Only comeback Rick has is the one his uncle left. There's great people on both sides. Yeah, I have faith in humanity. I don't have so much faith in governments. I've seen governments do some bad things a lot. Free Palestine. Amen to you, Brent. Yeah, the Palestinian people inspire me. Every day I think to myself, what strength Palestinian people have to put up with 76 years of brutal occupation. I can't even wrap my mind around it. I realize that a lot of nations around the world have been oppressed and brutalized. Again, human beings can do really good things and they can do really bad things. But Palestinians, I can't even believe what's going on over there. It's one of the reasons why I speak up so much. And I talk about the plight of Palestinians a lot because, again, if I was over there in their shoes, I would want someone in America who had, the ability to speak out, to talk about it and change it and help me if I was over there in their shoes. We're all connected. And the real no one is safe until everyone's safe is that, it's not promoting the pharmaceutical industry. It's helping other human beings that don't have what we have. Yeah, free Palestine. They've endured long enough. Who did I recently share on my channel? It was Ilan Pape, Palestinian or Israeli historian. He's cautious about this, but he thinks we're watching the end of the colonial Zionist machine. I hope so. We must strive to live as if we are Jesus. You must try to heal our fellow man, trust in the Lord and not politicians. Amen to that statement. What would Jesus do, right? One of the best focusing statements ever made. What would Jesus say and think and do? I love that. That's an awesome. Check your mental health. Meds are more than necessary. Meds are more than necessary. Okay. From the Houthis, right? The Houthis are another inspiration there. The only, I realize you're probably, not referring to what I'm referring to, but again, the U.S. has destroyed that area over there, all for money. We're not doing good things in the world, when you say Democrat, I'm assuming you're talking about me. I'm not a Democrat. I was a conservative prior to the last handful of years. Now I'm pulling out from the whole circus, to be honest. The world itself has fallen. It does appear that way, sadly. Yeah, like nuking Japan. We dropped a nuke. We dropped a bomb on all those civilians. What the F? Why did we do that? It was to end the war and it saved so many lives. That's propaganda that they tell us that. Yeah, there is no right side. I agree with you. This dude is full of hate, and War Devil has his hold on this guy, okay? Well, I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thanks for the comments. I learned a lot as usual. Greed always results in loss of death and integrity. Yeah. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me and sharing your 2 cents. I will chat with you in the next one when we'll come up with another topic and see what we can come together to share knowledge and information. I appreciate you. Until next time, I wish all of you the best, all the best health, wealth, and success. Have an awesome day.